Hey, this is Pat Ricard, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
That's pretty incredible. In fact, it's la-marvelous.
Thank you, guys.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. It is Friday night, January 15th, recording this for the morning of Saturday, January 16th, which is, of course, the opening of the divisional round weekend, featuring none other than your Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills up in frozen tundra Orchard Park. My name is Jake Luke. I am joined by a yet again dispatched Spencer Nathaniel Schultz, having himself quite a night here. How you doing, bud?
Better now. I've had absolute fits the last 2 weeks. First, I had some bad technological issues. Didn't have the right converter. Bought a converter. Blah 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 blah. May or may not have punched a hole in the door over that because it was such an annoying issue that I spent $50 on trying to get the right adapters and shit, and then I have a brand new laptop that's not working and all kinds of issues. So there was that. Then today, I'm out in West Virginia going skiing this weekend, and car breaks down where I'm in West Virginia with no cell service on the mountain and snowshoe. So that was quite an ordeal. We were supposed to have a guest on at 7 p.m. from Cover One, Mr. Greg Thompson, a phenomenal member of the Cover One network who is dedicated to Bills coverage. They do X's and O's. They do it all. They do a great job. Unfortunately, he was double booked, had some other things to do, and weren't able to get him on at this time. So I botched that one. A big HE double hockey sticks of a day for your boy Spenny. And now I've got some schnapps and Pink Whitney poured, trying to get the juices back flowing. But here we are now that I'm finally recording. Once the record button is finally hit, it all melts away. All of the frustrations melt away. I remember when Jake and I were very first starting to come on the scene. We didn't know each other that well yet. We had probably been recording like 2-3 months maybe. And Jake's like laptop froze a couple times and I just caught him hot. He didn't know that he was still on and he was just having an absolute fit as well. Technology burns our bridges as it does make them as well. But here we are. We're excited to talk to you folks. The biggest game in 6 years, 7 years, 6 years.
Six,
was that
yeah.
20? That was 2015. Yeah, so 6 years.
2014, 2014 season, 2015 postseason.
And it's here. It's, finally Ravens get a W and we're moving on and talking Buffalo Bills football against a really fun team. So it's going to obviously be an exciting matchup. We're excited to be here and talk to you guys and get it cooking.
We are. That's an interesting anecdote you brought up there. I had kind of forgotten about that myself, but I am one of those people, and I know how irrationally stupid, and it makes me feel stupid and dislike that I do this, but when I have technology issues, I just lose my shit. I don't know why. I don't know what it brings out of me. It sounds like you're the same way, punching holes in walls, going full Kyle, but yeah, I don't know. And especially because like I have no real training, maybe a little bit, in like doing all this kind of audio production stuff. So it's been very much a trial and error type situation. So I probably have no excuse, but that's just the way that I am. But here we are. I mean, you're down in snowshoe. Sounds like you got a fun little weekend in front of you. I am chilling, dry January rolls on. We're on day 15, so another 2 weeks or so, and we'll be back on the sauce. But I'm enjoying this period of sobriety, to be honest. It's a little less stress, getting a little bit better sleep, and feeling a little more healthy. But yeah, I mean, that's probably a good thing going into this game, because I feel like anything to keep my stress levels down into, like you said, the most important game in probably 6 years is probably a good thing. And just kind of riding the wave of emotions and enjoying it in that type of way, I think is going to be pretty good for me. Watching, NFL playoffs like this has been an interesting experience.
It is an interesting experience. I was going to do dry January, and last week I was sick to my stomach. I was on the way to Buddy's house right in Reisterstown. Same individual gave me COVID when it was a party of 4. And so that was a fun ordeal. But driving over there, and I was just sick to my stomach. I was thinking about the narratives. I was thinking about if the Ravens lost that game, what we would have to hear, and me and you doing this podcast, and what we would have to hear and talk about, and what the questions in the mailbags would be, and what First Take would be saying, and Stephen A. Smith would be saying, and all of that shit. I had some beers. Last weekend. Last year I did Whole 30 once football season ended. I'm back on the shtick. Your boy has gone through a full fluffing season. The tummy is out and proud. I have been running, but I hate alcohol and can't wait to join you in sobriety.
Yeah, it definitely is interesting. I feel healthier. I've been back on the running myself. I have the 365 miles to run this year goal that I'm doing. So I'm a little bit ahead in the count there, maybe a couple miles per a couple days. So I got to get back on that admittedly. But yeah, it's been good. It's, like I said, been pretty, stress levels low, and sleep has been good. So rolling into this weekend, it's going to be fun. And I don't blame you for kind of cracking into it last weekend, because I was feeling it too. I was feeling pretty nervous, and
I was sick.
As Mike Luke says, we're on the front lines here in a way that other fans aren't. We kind of have to, contextualize and deal with these losses a little bit differently, because, like you said, it affects our near future in the way that we have to do content and stuff like that. So the Ravens losing that game and me immediately having to answer like 15 fucking Allen Robinson questions.
Is Lamar the guy? Should they consider drafting Trevor Lawrence?
Oh man, that would have happened, especially because there are a couple.
What would it take to trade up for Trevor Lawrence if they package Lamar?
There are a couple like Lance and like Mac Jones, maybe like people will be like, maybe what if they fall? It's like, no, we're not doing this. So we're certainly not. We're here on divisional weekend, and I guess we're ready to preview. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
What is the first thing you think of regarding this matchup?
That it's the Josh Allen show and the Lamar Jackson show. It is two offenses, and I want to say almost, and people are like, what about Stephon Diggs? But Josh Allen has to get him the ball. Like, both of these offenses are so heavily weighed on the success of their quarterback on a game-to-game basis. It is. I'm trying to think. When was the last time that Lamar basically was highly ineffective, and the Ravens won a game? Maybe the Texans game. He wasn't great.
Yeah, he made a couple plays with his arm in that one. It was not like nothing deep passing, but a lot of intermediate stuff. And he did have some
digs. He really hurt them with digs. I feel like he played well enough to warrant the one that comes to mind is like the Seahawks game. He didn't really light them up. He hit the one big pass to Boykin. He has a rushing touchdown, but
he took over running in the fourth quarter to basically ice it. But other than that, there were long.
And he did have some big scrambles too. He had that monster 30-something yard scramble. So I can't even think of the last time the Ravens truly had kind of a clunker. And I'm not shitting on Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco went 4 of 10 for 44 yards and threw an interception and won a game in New England by 3 scores. Like, the Ravens Lamar Jackson pretty much has to play well for them to win. He has to play above average for the Ravens to win most of the time. And then Josh Allen is the same deal. If he turns the ball over, if he's getting flustered like he used to, those kinds of things, that's when their drives stall out. And the success of their teams both is just so intertwined to those two guys having a good day, especially in the postseason, especially when you're playing competent defenses in Baltimore and Buffalo. And it just kind of makes me feel weird. Like, I don't know. The Bills don't have a rushing attack. Like, they don't. Josh Allen is their best rushing threat, and he's, a great runner. But, like, Lamar is obviously, I would say, maybe a more dangerous runner than Allen, but he's also got Dobbins. He's also got a more advanced run concepts. Like, I think he has a little bit more help in that sense. And then, of course, Allen does have Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown and stuff, but he's got to get him the ball. And teams don't really care about them running. So it's just like these two quarterbacks are in a true fist fight against one another. And it's just kind of odd. I don't know.
Nobody punched me for saying this, but going back to your original question there, I almost look at last week a little bit. Like, they got off to a rough start. He throws that terrible interception. And I think a little bit of that was psychological, because he does not turn the ball over in a stupid way like that very often. And I feel like he was kind of getting over the jitters a little bit. And then sort of the first sign that those jitters were breaking was that third and relatively long conversion to Andrews. And then obviously the rushing touchdown. Other than that, though, a couple plays with his legs here and there late in the game, a couple nice throws, but, and especially his connection with Hollywood Brown. But, he was an X factor on his touchdown run and on a couple of those plays that he made. But other than that, like that was maybe the most complete team win, not relying on him, that we've seen maybe this year.
Yeah, up there. I'm just trying to rack my brain of games. Like, I don't know. It just feels like there's so much pressure, and then vice versa on Josh Allen. So it's truly a young quarterback duel. And those guys have to play well or their team won't win. Plain and simple, at the most elementary level, if Josh Allen does not play well, the Bills are not going to win. If Lamar Jackson does not play well, the Ravens are not going to win. But both of those guys play well a lot of the time. They're effective enough. They put points on the board. They move the ball. Of course, there's certain plays. You think back to last week, Josh Allen gets a pretty easy look in the goal line, little quarterback RPO pop pass to the tight end in the end zone. But the threat of him running was the reason for that play. That's why that was there. So even when other guys help him out, when the scheme helps out, it's because of the talent of those two guys. And just at a basic level, it's exciting, but it also just kind of shows there's a little too much pressure on both of them, I feel like, in that same sense. You need to be able to win a game here and there where your quarterback doesn't have a good day. I feel like Baker Mayfield can get away with that. He can have Nick Chubb Kareem Hunt really take over a game. We've seen the Browns win games without that. The Chiefs, it feels like, are a weird thing to comment on that about because their scheme is just so fucking sick. The amount of schemed open receivers there are, Mahomes' arm talent and mobility combined, the stuff he does with his legs is, kind of want to say the same thing, but I don't know. It just feels like these guys need more weapons. Lamar needs more weapons in the passing game, and Josh Allen needs a more proficient running game to be a surefire kind of Super Bowl team. So I think we kind of might see some shortcomings exposed in this one a little bit.
Yeah,
because of all the pressure.
Yeah, and it is kind of like the weird inverse in that way where Jackson has the rushing options around him, not so much in the passing game, and then obviously it's kind of vice versa with the Bills where you have Diggs, you have Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox, plenty of guys to make plays in the passing game, and then Allen obviously represents an issue with his legs, I think particularly on money downs, when they just clear guys out, everyone runs downfield, and you're worried about these receiving threats, and then he just takes off on a 3rd and 7 like he did last week at least once and picks it up. So he's kind of
last week, Josh Allen's legs were the catalyst behind about 3/4 of the truly positive plays that the Bills had.
I don't want to enrage any Ravens fans listening to this, and I don't know if it will or won't, but to me right now, from what I saw last week and from what I've seen at points this season, right now he's the closest thing in the league to Mahomes, in my opinion, in that respect, because Mahomes an underrated scrambler, crazy arm, obviously, and obviously the receiving weapons and stuff like that aren't quite there all the way with Allen, but he's made that jump, in my opinion.
I like to compare him to just a fast, if Ben Roethlisberger could have played tight end, if he was truly an NFL level athlete,
gave a shit about staying in shape and,
was fast. I mean, Ben could scramble, Ben could buy time. He could shake off stuff early in his career. He still can a little bit. You still see him kick around back there sometimes, but that's the comparison I love for Allen. He stays in the pocket. He'll hang tough. He's willing to take contact. He's willing to, the guy bounces up after everything. He deals punishment. He is a grown man. And what I wanted to say to Greg Thompson when we were going to interview him until my life fell apart was, it's just funny because, it was a lot more hyped about Lamar Jackson coming out of college, but Polian makes the comments about receiver and people call him a running back and yada, yada, yada. Lamar Jackson could probably be a pretty good running back. He could probably be a pretty good receiver. Josh Allen could probably be a pretty good tight end. When you see the level of physicality that he has, what type of athlete he has, how smart he is, these are two NFL athletes that are also really good quarterbacks. And he does
look like he does physically resemble Logan Thomas, body type wise.
Yes, that's a great comparison.
So yeah, it's very interesting. And obviously I don't want to get too carried away, prisoner of the moment. I assume there's going to be some regression from Josh next year. Nobody is quite on Mahomes' level, but he's just, I don't know. He's just awesome in both facets of the game right now. You got to give him his respect. And it is also, we talked about narratives a ton last week and how much we hated them. And kind of it's interesting, the parallels between these two guys here, and they've spoken on it, and they've spoken how much respect they have for each other as two guys who had to overcome a lot of bullshit and a lot of negative opinions about one another based on some fact, other, fiction. And it's just been an interesting transition watching these guys come to the league. I think with Lamar, it was kind of interesting watching him being thrust into action super early and succeeding right away unconventionally. With Allen, he kind of got thrown into the fire. It's been a much slower burn. He was pretty bad his rookie year. He was pretty good last year, and he's been great this year. So watching them kind of develop in the way that they have in their comments for each other in the pregame has also been a joy to watch. It's really a different kind of lead up to this game than it was last week, where it was kind of toxic. And it's like, fuck these guys. Like, we're not going to show them respect. I feel like it's very different right now.
This is like the narrative. Like, this is like the empty narrative game. There's no narrative about either of them. Like, whoever wins, the narrative is like they're going to an AFC championship game, and the narrative is anyone who wants to stick to that final post, they're willing to die on the hill. You really can't say that once a guy goes to an AFC championship when they're in the league a couple of years like this. So, whichever one loses, people are going to feel validated a little bit, and it's going to validate their bias and whatever they have. But you just can't. This game, what do you have to say about this game? Like, Josh Allen was, you said he was pretty good last year. I thought he had a lot of really high ceiling, amazing, spectacular, talented plays. We still saw that chaotic, schoolyard.
When I say pretty good, I mean between like 10 and 20, trending up and down pretty variably.
He was definitely better than he was his rookie year. Definitely looked a lot more competent, and you saw progression. The jump he took this year was, in my opinion, bigger than the jump that Lamar Jackson took between his rookie year and his second year. He wins an MVP. And there are definitely a lot of seasons where Josh Allen could have been the MVP. He would have
won the MVP last year playing like this, I think. Or maybe not. I don't know. Like, Lamar obviously was
It
spectacular.
would have been closer competition for sure. Allen probably would have Lamar might not have been unanimous.
As much as Seahawks fans were crying about how Russell Wilson deserved it for some fucking lifetime achievement thing last year, like, Allen would have gotten votes last year. Nobody else did.
Yes, I think all else is the same. And Allen might get some. I think Allen will get some votes this year. I might have contemplated. I talked a lot of smack. He had a rough little 2-game stretch, I think, this year. And I was like, oh, the Josh Allen MVP hype train, like 2020 to 2020. But then he turned it back on and went crazy. And what I see from Josh Allen on tape over and over and over and over again, this is why I like to compare him to Big Ben a little bit. The man is calling plays at the line. He knows how to read the defense and check into a run. He knows how to read the defense and check into a tighter alignment and where it's going to be zoned. He uses a ton of hard count to try and draw defenses out. I watched Peyton Manning's Detail, the Kobe Bryant show, and I watched it on Josh Allen, and he had an interesting little tidbit that he said, and Peyton's pretty critical of these quarterbacks. He did one for Lamar too. He is, but
the Lamar one was good. I checked that out. I'll have to check this Josh Allen one.
He really didn't say much negative about Lamar, which was surprising. He did highlight his running a good bit and made some jokes about it. Basically, like, I have nothing to talk about Lamar's running because I could never do that. But
he included that little clip of him scrambling. Like, it was just like the most unathletic thing you've ever seen. I like that.
And so he's talking about Josh Allen, and he has one little key. And I was like, damn, I wonder if Josh Allen watched this and saw. And it's when he goes hard count, he brings his hands up. He brings his hands up like he's going to receive the ball around his face. And that means it's a hard count because when he receives the snap, his arms are swinging at his side. So it's like, all right, I know when the snap's going to be. It's when if he brings his hands up, I'm not going. I'm not showing where I'm going. And so I was like, it was from week 4, I think. Peyton Manning broke that down. So then I went and watched like 5 plays of 5 different games like later this year, and he was still doing the same thing. But you can just tell the cerebral jump he's made, how in control he is. He's calling protection. You can hear him, Linda, left, slide left line, doing all kinds of different things. So I think the cerebral part, he is on point right now. Leaps and bounds. He's not throwing stupid interceptions. Like, some of the ones he's thrown have been fantastic, deceptive coverages that get guys and things he probably learned from and will keep in his registry and know to go to again. But he's been definitely really impressive. And the most impressive part for me is the cerebral part. And he has a weird arm slot. Like, he throws the ball.
He's kind of like right here. Almost.
He's 3/4. He's not, and I saw a video that was talking about Jim Kelly, who was basically only quarterback that is better than Josh Allen ever, like, more loved by Bills fans in the history of the Bills, even though Allen's only 3 years in. He was straight overhead. He had said he would try to scratch his back when he threw the ball. And Allen is just like,
that's how Unitas used to do it, like, back in the day. So all those guys kind of learned from him because, like, it was like come up and then bring it down and, like, snap it down, which is like, right. It made sense, like, I think back in the day, but, like, now these days, like, you see these swashbuckling guys like Stafford come in.
Well,
like,
the angles are a lot different too in the passing game, a lot more crossing stuff, a lot more intermediate, like, long sideline stuff. So you can kind of lay the ball across when you have that sidearm angle, and it allows him to get the ball out quickly and really hit guys in stride. And I just kind of was really looking at his arm for the first time, in depth. The amount of the velocity he gets on a ball from that arm slot is really peculiar, man. Really, really, really peculiar. He really short arms the ball. And when he rips it, he still does it. And the ball just fucking moves. as well as anyone in the NFL. I think Baker, Deshaun Watson, I want to say over Mahomes even, and Josh Allen, those three for me have the most absolute drive on a 20-yard ball, to the sideline. They can beat angles. Josh Allen can hit throws on the sideline that guys in the NFL can't hit because he drives the ball so quickly. And it's so weird how fast it is out of that 3/4 arm slot. I think that's where he gives defenses a lot of trouble because he can get the ball in places with such velocity that shouldn't be able to.
His throw to Diggs, I think early in the game last week when he stepped up and just flicked it, that's kind of where I'm coming from with the Mahomes stuff. It's obviously again, don't want to press that too hard, but that throw is fucking incredible. And that kind of really jump-started their offense a little bit. I don't know if they had started slow. I mean, they had been stopped a few times and the Colts offense was driving a little bit. They probably should have scored more points than they did the Colts. I mean, that was just kind of, we're going to talk about it. Obviously, the Colts kind of gave that game away in some respects, but yeah, I don't know, man. He's been a joy to watch. We'll obviously break down the offense a little bit more, but I first want to ask, what do you make of Sean McDermott?
That the Bills play disciplined football because of him, that they're well coached, they're in sync, they communicate a lot. I was mentioning the pre-snap stuff. I was also thinking about their defense. The reason that secondary is so good is because if you watch any kind of somewhat obvious passing down, they are talking, they are signaling every single down. They're talking. And that's how you avoid having a team line up in a bunch stack and two guys ending up on the same receiver. Talk every play. They communicate, they rally to the football. They're disciplined. They are well organized, and you can just tell they're a well coached, well organized, functional team as opposed to a dysfunctional team. They do not shoot themselves in the foot situationally. They are confident, and it feels like they're loose too. They're so confident that it allows them to be loose. And I kind of almost want to compare it to a Belichick team where they celebrate after plays and stuff, but it is always controlled, and all 11 guys celebrate for 3 seconds. 7 guys celebrate for 3 seconds and then are back. And they just have a good idea of what their teammates are doing. They have good spacing offensively. They have good spacing in their zone coverages. Their pass rush is not great, but for the guys that they have, I feel like it's in pretty good sync. They're able to do some different stunts and alignments and things. And they create angles offensively and they take them away defensively. They're a big angle team. They force some difficult looks. And they do it on both sides of the ball. So I feel like they are fundamentally on the cutting edge in terms of what's important in football in 2021, as well as old school, disciplined, communicating, just fundamentally sound overall. And I think he's a disciplinarian type coach that's confident, that he's even keel and has them running, has them buzzing. And they feel confident. I mean, they were a great team last year. They went to the playoffs. They won 11 games, I believe. And he's the real deal for sure.
He reminds me a lot of John Harbaugh, and those two guys are friends. So it makes sense that maybe he would be picking his brain and getting some of these sort of, coaching tenets from him and kind of learning in that way, coming over as, I believe, Carolina's defensive coordinator. He was under Rivera and Harbaugh go back to the Andy Reid tree. So there's kind of a lot of connective threads here between the two of them. And it's an interesting organizational philosophy where they hired him first, and then I believe he handpicked Brandon Beane over from Carolina, which is, I kind of feel like that's the way it should be. You pick a head coach, he goes and gets a GM or at least has some input on it and tells the GM this is how I want my roster built. These are the guys I want. You go get it done. I feel like the other way around, just for chain of command, old school reasons. It's no, we pick the GM, he's the boss, then he hires the coach, then on down the line. But I don't know. I feel like the other way around is kind of an interesting way of looking at it. And the Bills being at the cutting edge of that type of stuff is not something that we're used to, but it's been interesting to see.
The number one worst thing is when the coach and the GM don't see eye to eye where in the direction of the team. And most teams are GM hires coach that way. And then when they have conflict, the GM is then the ranking person. And I think that's silly. I do think that's silly. GM is a strange position. There's a lot more involved with cap and negotiations and that kind of stuff than we'll ever even realize. But I agree. I like that the coach is bringing in their guy. They're on the same page. The coach knows that, McDermott knows that Beane understands what type of scheme he wants, what type of players he wants what he values in personnel, and that's important. I agree absolutely, and they've done a great job. I mean, Stephon Diggs couldn't have fit better, like that kind of stuff.
I'm glad you brought him up because I did want to touch on him next. Why is he such a beast right now? Like, we saw him in Minnesota and he was like a really good receiver, but it feels like he had the best season in the league for any receiver. What is kind of what you're seeing that's allowed him to kind of break out in this way?
Sharp off of his whatever his plant foot is into his stem, breaks it clean, and again understands angles. There's a lot of throws where it's kind of, it's not a 50-50 ball. It's not a jump ball necessarily at all, but the DB has a chance to take an angle, to undercut things, to get to the ball, and Diggs will just flatten out more than anyone I've ever seen, really. Like, again, it's angles, and he will flatten to the sideline and impede upon that DB and go get the ball. He just finishes catches. Like, if he gets thrown a catchable ball, he puts it away wherever it is, and combined with his change of direction, we've known that about where he was at in the Vikings offense, and him and Adam Thielen both being really special. I felt like Thielen and Diggs had a really good impact on each other. Two athletes that are so fluid and smooth and also sudden in their route running. Had to have had a major impact, and he just creates cushion. He understands leverage. He's really I think he's really maybe the smartest receiver in the NFL in terms of understanding leverage, understanding where the ball needs to go, and a lot of it, this is what I hate. I think if you took Stephon Diggs out of the Bills offense, would it be as good? Not at all. But at the same time, I don't think he has necessarily made the impact on Josh Allen that people want him to have made. I think that Josh Allen is just better. Like, if Stephon Diggs missed 6 games, I don't think Josh Allen's accuracy is going to go down. So I don't like that narrative, but at the same time, he does win in a lot of situations where it's tough. He can be relied upon. He's not a big body guy, but he finishes catches. Keenan Allen, he kind of reminds me of Keenan Allen in a lot of ways. A little bit more explosive, able to just work on the boundary a little better because he is a more explosive athlete, but unbelievable IQ, unbelievable understanding of coverage, where the soft spot's going to be. Like, he fucking picks zone apart, really picks zone apart. It feels like he has a lot of freedom in this offense, and double moves. You can throw him screens and he'll make guys miss. He'll beat angles. Like, he's faster than you ever even realize. Every single time he has burst. Like, he's really just a complete wide receiver. And he is the body type of the receiver that I love. He's, 5'11-ish, 190, 200, like, not too big, not too small. I like Goldilocks receivers. I like him to be 5'11", 6 foot, not too heavy, not too light, and able to be complete that way. And he is the epitome of that. He's the epitome of a receiver that can, play Z, play X, play in the slot, do all these different things as an H. And they're just smart. Cole Beasley's a smart receiver too. John Brown is a smart receiver too. Like, Cole Beasley's the best at understanding soft spots in zone, how to sit down, how to do that little jerk route where he sits down and then shakes it to one way or shakes it back to the other and breaks it. And they just have smart receivers and a smart offense. And I think that is a testament to Dable. And I think that's also a testament to McDermott and Bean, who you mentioned, and Diggs is obviously the headliner, and the matchup is going to be Marlon Humphrey, it feels like. And I like that matchup for Marlon Humphrey. If OBJ, a very similar receiver to Diggs, it feels like, in a lot of ways, in terms of being able to do all those different things, while OBJ, gets more flashy reps or whatever, smart, understands angles and stuff. And Humphrey does well against those balanced receivers. AJ Brown was able to push him around a little bit. Humphrey's not huge. He's definitely a bulldog for a corner, but AJ Brown is like a freaking mastiff for a wide receiver. So it was an interesting matchup. And I think Humphrey matches up a lot better on Diggs, because Diggs can't really bully him. He's more of an arm fighter and a technique arm over, hand fighting guy. And I think Humphrey does well with that.
Yeah, definitely. And you kind of already touched on something that I was going to talk about, like, what do you do against him? But I guess that kind of swerves into just the general overall thoughts of, like, if you're Wink Martindale, you've got this defense 9th in DVOA, 10th against the pass, 12th against the rush, as I pull up the numbers here, and that's pretty balanced. So, like, he's talked about heading into this week, or maybe it was heading into the prior week, about how he is happy to be known as the blitz guy, and, like, you want to be known for something. And it sounds like that's maybe the approach that he's going to take into this game. Is that something that you would agree with / would do if you were him? How do you think what do you think the key to stopping this Bills offense is? Because we saw them have, some struggles against Tennessee, who's not a good defense, but that was earlier in the year. And then some other games, obviously Arizona, that was a tough loss. But what do you think he would do?
The first thing I noticed about Josh Allen against blitzes, is if you're blitzing overload, you're dropping an edge into coverage like the Ravens do so often. Allen's immediate response is to roll. Like if let's say Matt Judon drops, where's Matt Judon always play? He always plays over the right tackle on the left side of the defense, usually left outside linebacker. Well, he doesn't move around, but if Judon drops off in coverage, that means that there's probably pressure coming in hot from the other side. So Allen immediately will bail to his right. He immediately rolls out. And that's where he's really dangerous to me. And people talk about him holding the ball, and he can be dangerous in that. He actually threw 9 of his 10 interceptions when he held the ball over 2.5 seconds. But he'll roll and throw pretty quick. He takes good angles. He likes to live laterally, Josh Allen. So pass rush wise, I want to, and the Steelers had some success against them. Allen turned it on in the second half and started to see some things better. The Steelers offense was also so dreadful that it just kind of wore their defense out, I feel like. But they were rushing outside in as opposed to inside out. They want Allen to step up, and then he still usually wants to go laterally. But what you've done is decrease the physical space between a Calais Campbell and a Josh Allen. The objective, the goal for Calais Campbell is now closer physically. It's 3 yards away instead of 6 yards away. If you start scrambling, Calais Campbell no one can catch Josh Allen from behind. He's fast enough and takes good enough, angles, has good ankle flexion, and he's a big boy. No one really cuts him off or catches him from behind that way unless they start with a fantastic angle. So I think rushing outside, kind of getting him to step up and then trying to stunt inside and get a free rusher inside, a delayed blitz from a linebacker inside that can then get a closer target. It's shooting a 25-meter target instead of a 100-meter target if you're at their shooting range. Like it's just closer. And he is so good throwing on the run. He is so good when he works to the sideline, so good at buying time, being confident in, I have time, I can scan the field a little bit, and I can go get a first down with my legs. Not dissimilar from Ryan Tannehill in ways, but Josh Allen is way fucking better than Ryan Tannehill in my mind. While I do like Tannehill's ball placement and he is mobile and stuff, it's like he is like a jacked up version of what Ryan Tannehill can do in that sense. But Allen, I mean, they do run a lot of quarterback draws and a lot of little quarterback runs. He's straight downhill. If it's a designed run, there's no lateral movement, which is peculiar. He, makes these slight little cuts. So just understanding that I want to rush him from the outside in, decrease the distance, and then on these quarterback runs, if you clear the field out, and this is what the Colts did so many times, and he had like 3 big runs on this. If they go empty and it's pretty spread look, like not tight alignments, and he gets 4 linemen, he's gonna check to a quarterback draw most of the time. And he's so fucking lethal. So know that that's going to happen and then collapse back in on it. Like bait him into running quarterback draws and a less efficient play and trying to collapse late and have, safeties come down, linebackers move back inside late so that it goes from a 5-on-4 lineman to lineman advantage for the Bills into a situation where there's 7 guys all of a sudden and it's Josh Allen and his 5 linemen. And I think you can get him to force some bad plays that way. And it's tough. He makes a lot of good throws. He's really best over the intermediate part of the field on the quick passing game. They run RPOs, they run a lot of slants and stuff. And you just can't worry about their running game like that much. It's not worth it because they'll move the chains with their passing game. With Zach Moss out, it's going to be the Devin Singletary show. I like Devin Singletary. I don't even know who their backup running back is. I haven't looked yet, but I'm sure it's someone that's somewhat capable. And they check into runs a lot. Like if he gets an underlook and there's, numbers to one side and shotgun, they run pretty much entirely out of shotgun almost. They do go under center a bit, but he checks into a lot of those runs and you can just kind of see their checks on film. You can see defensive alignments and how they result in what checks. So knowing that, baiting them into that, and then taking advantage of it is the chess that Wink can play in this game. It feels like, and that this defense can play.
Looks like it's TJ Yeldon there. It's second on the depth chart.
TJ Yeldon, right.
So it's all interesting. And like, to me, I feel like what it kind of comes down to, and this might be a little bit of a 30,000 foot view thing, but looking at that Colts game, and you mentioned the design runs with him and him just kind of going straight forward. One play where he doesn't do that is the touchdown pass to Knox, where he takes it and then he's like kind of shifting gears a little bit and like not really sure what to do. And then he just flings it up to him and it's a touchdown. And like, I think maybe kind of getting him in a spot where maybe not necessarily on a play like that, but just finding a way to fool him and maybe forcing a turnover or two, because it feels like for reasons like him making that play last week and some of the stuff that he was able to do, it just looked unstoppable. It feels like they're going to get theirs to an extent, and this is going to come down to who turns the ball over more.
Right. And I think the biggest part of that is communication. We talk about how the Bills defense communicates really well. You have to know his checks. That is what the games that it would be Ray Lewis against Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. And I was watching some clips of Luke Kuechly today as well. Like, know what their checks are out of what formations based on what you're aligning in. Align that way intentionally so that you can take advantage. He wants to check into the easy numbers advantages, into the things that make sense. If he starts checking, you have to check. Start playing the mind games with him. Don't just sit back. The Ravens aren't going to do that. The Colts just sat back in a lot of too high and kind of showed their hand pre-snap a good bit coverage-wise and just were like, all right, Josh, pick us apart. And he did. So I think that's the exact opposite approach of what you want to do. The Colts did have some success with that, but they just have different personnel. And I like the Ravens bringing a lot of heads into the defensive front, playing with the protection of the Bills. Bills do have their offensive line is so fucking good in pass protection, and it does not get talked about enough. They're not maulers in the run game. They also don't get to be because they don't run the ball a ton. But Deion Dawkins is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Mitch Morse has been a successful center for years. Like, they have good offensive linemen that are really sound. The free rushers, though, that's what you want in this game. That's what we saw the Ravens do in 2019. Bring guys into the box, put them at the line of scrimmage, and start playing those games. Because if you do get a turnover, if you do get a sack, that's a drive killer, and that is a difference in this football game. And I just don't want to see the Ravens in this one sit back and let Allen make checks, and you just sit there and let him start to pick you apart. At the same time, don't lose contain. He does want to roll out. He does want to buy time and throw on the run. He's so good at it, so deadly on the move, a la Baker Mayfield. And you have to rush with contain. You have to make him step up first. You can't just let him bail and get to the perimeter and then beat you with his arm. So it's a tough balance, and there's different ways to do it. But I think we see a lot of man coverage in this one. A lot of man coverage. I think we're going to see a lot of jams. Cole Beasley is pretty banged up. I think he might be playing a little bit of possum. I swear to God, because he'll like catch a ball, go down and walk really slow. And then the next play will be like a shake route where he cuts in and then cuts up and darts and makes a diving catch and then bounces right back up. But they don't have big receivers. Gabe Davis is kind of big, but he's not necessarily a press beater, and he doesn't win with releases like that. So go press these guys and fuck with their fronts and start toying around with the pass protection and stunting inside while keeping contained. Ngakoue is going to be coming in hot. And you want him to, so that you can kind of stunt to replace Ngakoue, so that Josh Allen feels like, oh, I stepped up around Ngakoue. Now I can roll to my left and have a trap there waiting for him. Have Calais Campbell, have Derek Wolfe stunting inside out, looping, and getting to the outside, wrapping him up, get a couple sacks there. He starts getting kind of physical, starts trying to lay some shoulders down and shit. He's a huge dude and he's a beast as a physical specimen. So there's a lot of mind games that are going to go on in this one. And Allen's a lot better pre-snap now. He can recognize some things. So they're trying to pick up on Ravens' tendencies. And I think Wink is great at basically taking his own tendencies and lighting them on fire and showing you something else. So I feel pretty confident that the Ravens are going to give Josh Allen some problems, at least in pass pro and in coverage, and be able to do some things. And if he's able to throw the ball away or check down, that's how he'll win this game.
Yeah, weirdly, it felt like the Colts just kind of weren't able to do that. And like, obviously they needed to finish drives on offense and they didn't. So switching over to the other side, like this defense, you've got Trey White, obviously. Matt Milano is a name that I think a lot of people should know. He's a really good linebacker. Outside of those two guys, who are the top guys that you're kind of looking at on this defense right now?
Well, there's Jerry Hughes, of course. Jerry Hughes is a vet. He's been around for a long time. He, explosive, smaller leverage pass rusher with speed and is smart, able to get technique to convert to power. And for me, it's the safeties, man. Everybody talks about Trey White, of course, and I like Poyer and Hyde. For my money, that's the best safety tandem in football. Interchangeable, both guys. Poyer a little bit more comes down to the box and plays the flats a little bit more, it feels like. Don't have the numbers on that, but he will roll down a little bit more. But those two guys can roll. Either of them can play single high. They're really smart and, again, take really good angles to the football. They understand how to cut stuff off. The middle of the field's vulnerable. Neither of those guys are big guys. They can't really body a Mark Andrews. I don't think they really have anyone who can match up with Mark Andrews. So, of course, they're going to try and do what a lot of other teams have to do. And as Jesse Bates said, take away 89 over the middle of the field. So using Andrews as a decoy, I think, is important. Getting him involved early, if possible, to make them really want to squeeze down on him. And you mentioned that Colts game, like that 2-minute drive before the end of the first half, like Allen rolls out, throws a ball on the sideline that may or may not have been caught, ends up being rolled to catch. That's fine. Then throws a little stop route to Beasley, then and escapes pressure, throws another one to Davis on the sideline, ends up throwing what should have been an interception on an awful decision. Like, you can get them to start playing frantic football. The Ravens can't be that way offensively. You can't be frantic. You have to be composed. And what we saw from the Ravens was a horrible 2-minute drive at the end of the first half last week where Pat Ricard's in, you get a little bit of yardage. You have 2 timeouts. There's 28 seconds left. You get up to the 45-yard line or whatever, 40-yard line, 50-yard line. And then you're suddenly calling 2 plays in a row. The second play was 95, 9 routes on it was 2x2, 95, 9s on the outside, 5s on the inside, the out route. And you're running that against middle of the field open coverage, meaning there's a huge vacant hole in the middle of the football field, cover 4, and there's no one in the middle of the field. You ran the perfect play for a middle of the field middle of field open defense to contest. And situational football is going to be important in this one. The Ravens can't have an egregious mistake like that because the Bills will nickel and dime you down the field. They will get explosive plays, and they did get away with a couple things. That dropped interception in the end zone. Suddenly Josh Allen runs a quarterback draw and then sneaks the ball into the end zone. And that's how the Bills took control of the lead there and never gave it back.
That all happened, like, we can't stress enough, that all happened because the Colts had a shitty 4th down call on the goal line. Like, I don't know what they were trying to do, but like they had they go empty. Like, this is a point I made in my video that came out this week. Like, they go empty, like probably in the bottom third of the league. They go empty for that 4th down call, and they rely on this like weird crosser play where like you're basically relying on a pick to like get a guy open, but Milano recognizes it and he sticks with Pittman, I believe. Rivers is like 37. He's not going to make a play with his legs. They just have this stupid 4th down call. And then they had another one.
Tough angle too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And like, it just, I don't know. Like, I feel like the Ravens are going to be better prepared on 4th down. I feel like they're probably going to have a couple decisions to make. I think they're going to be going for it. And I trust them to have stuff drawn up there. So, obviously, like, they need to manage situationally better than they did at the end of the half last week. But I feel like they're better equipped than, I don't know. I don't want to rag on the Colts because Frank Reich, actually, by the numbers, is a good decision maker in that respect. But I feel like they're going to maybe be a little bit better prepared than the Colts were in that game for those money situations. At least I hope. Which, I think they actually even were. Like, they should have won that Titans game if not for an OPI call on a really good 4th down draw up, I thought. So.
And 3rd down, more than any, like the number one thing in this game is going to be 3rd down. And especially for the Ravens offense, it feels like making 3rd downs get into manageable 4th downs, 4th and short if you're around the middle of the football field, like, and on the defensive side of football as well. But this Bills defense, man, they are disciplined. There are not a ton of blown coverages. There are tough throws to be made. You can get them over the middle of the field. They're not great over the middle of the field, but what are they going to do? They're going to try to take that away. So what I was so impressed with in this Ravens game last week was coming out and initially trying to, do the head on a head battle of will, running the ball up the middle and throwing the ball over the middle. And the Titans were like, no, you're just not going to. Here's the sideline. Take it. Take it if you want it, because you never want it. And Roman recognized it. Lamar recognized it. And they just won the game in the flats.
Really recognized it was Hollywood Brown. If he does not have a game like he had, I don't know if they win, because they basically said,
not even close. He was converting 1st downs on. He took pressure off of Lamar getting yak, like the orbit motion where he cuts up field and gets a 1st down, as well as really late in the game, taking the ball to the flat and being able to squeeze by a defender and get like 18 yards. Like, those 2 of the biggest plays of the game. So Hollywood being able to do those kinds of things.
One catch down the sideline early in the game, which I feel like people are kind of forgetting about a little bit, where he had a guy draped on him and he brought it in right near the sideline. Like, he was 5-tool player out there this past weekend. So gonna need
best game of his career this far through 2 seasons. And he takes pressure off of Lamar when he can do that, when Lamar can drive the damn football to the sideline. And on those throws, you saw Lamar start to kind of really sit and lean on that back foot and throw kind of through his plant foot and instead of being on his toes and stuff. And that's something you can see pre-snap. You're going to get throws in the flats. You're going to get those quick outs, those speed outs. The Bills are probably going to give that to him again. And they don't have these big bruisers inside necessarily, but because of that, I feel like they're going to try and do similar to what the Titans did, compensate in the middle of the football field. And if Lamar can just sit on that back foot kind of smoothly, almost like freaking Eli Manning reminded me of, drive off that back foot and get the ball to the sideline, that is imperative for this offense. The Bills, we saw Next Gen Stats retweeted. Everybody's probably seen it. The Bills suck at defending the run against light when they have a light box. When they've got 6 in the box or less, they get absolutely destroyed. Their defensive linemen are really small. Ed Oliver, I love Ed Oliver to death. I was so high on him coming out. I think he's still an impact player, or is an impact player, but none of those guys are 300 pounds. And you've got some fatties. You've got Fluker, you've got Bozeman, you've got Orlando Brown. You should be able to kind of seal them inside and get to the perimeter. It's all about that perimeter run game, perimeter passing game, and see if you can sneak freaking Miles Boykin out again. If Miles Boykin scores a touchdown in this game, the Ravens will win. I promise you that much.
We were talking privately about how him having a big game would have been huge last week, and it obviously wound up being Brown. I feel like they're probably going to be focused on Hollywood Brown a little bit this week, and that doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to have a good game because he was doing a lot of things that were beating what they were throwing at him last week. So maybe he will again. But yeah, like you said, Miles Boykin, if he can have himself a big game and kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit, I feel like that's kind of what happens on some of these touchdowns he scores. Like defenses just for whatever reason aren't worried about him, even though even through his struggles, he was a pretty good red zone threat. I think just kind of him maybe getting lost in the shuffle on one of these plays and maybe not even necessarily housing a long one, but just getting himself open and making the difference in 7 versus 3 points could be absolutely massive.
And I would love to see something along the lines of that orbit motion where you see the Tyreek Hill come back and do an orbit back motion. He goes back to sideline. Like Miles Boykin on that play is sealing flow inside. He is blocking his back to the Ravens sideline, back to the sideline that Hollywood's running to, sealing right inside. I would love to see him bluff that and almost like a tight end leak out of it and charge down the field on an angle, see if Lamar can get a layup, have the other side attack the middle of the football field. And that would be imperative as well. It just really stinks that the Ravens don't have a second tight end. The Bills really struggle with tight ends, and we saw Hayden Hurst get loose last year. It just really stinks because they're going to be able to put a lot of pressure on Andrews and try and take Andrews away over the middle of the football field. They run some too high. They run a lot of single high. They rotate late. They're going to be able to triangle and combo coverage Mark Andrews, and you need Hollywood Brown to take pressure off Lamar again. You need Primetime Jet, the playoff freaking master, averaging well over 100 yards over his first 2 playoff games, both against the Titans, albeit. But Trey White, a way better cornerback than Adoree Jackson. Poyer and Hyde, like I mentioned, Hyde's a little bit more the deep guy, but Poyer's a real nasty SOB over the middle of the field and in some intermediate stuff. And it's going to be a dogfight, but I just don't know how the Bills are able to stymie off this power running game of the Ravens with the lighter guys. I liked Edmonds coming out of the draft. He has not been consistent. You don't see him really activate like you would like. Still super young. I think he's 23 and in his 3rd or 4th year. Something along those lines. He might be 24, but he came out when he was 20. He was playing in the fall when he was 20. Great athlete, but not great coverage-wise. Milano's all right. He's versatile. I would almost liken him to Judon in some ways. He's moving around, doing some different things, rushing the passer, not nearly as much, but he's a tough player. I don't know if he's the greatest athlete in the world, and I don't really think the Bills have the greatest athletes in the world in terms of physicality or like being a size, speed, skill combo, but they
remind me where like the Ravens were like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. Like just a good team defense, not a lot of stars, like just very stout.
Yeah, and they really blow coverages. They'll let up some crossers and things over the middle of the field. You can squeak those in there, and of course Lamar loves those. But they had to. Their game plan last year was bullshit. It was fucking pull the pullers. It was to rip the pullers onto the ground, and they did it for like I think 2 quarters until the Ravens were like irate, finally start getting flagged, and then all of a sudden the Ravens were running the ball effectively. The Bills were just grabbing pullers and tackling them and pulling them down by their jersey, and it wasn't called. Like they had to resort to that because they know that they are going to get beat up. They had Star Lotulelei in that game, who was one of the best interior run stuffers in the NFL. He opted out. So I think the Ravens are able to run the ball pretty effectively in this one. I just don't think the Bills have the athletes necessarily to really shut down this Ravens run game. They can be disciplined, but discipline can take you quite a far way against this Ravens offense, but once you've seen the veer and the bash and the just straight up runs and all the motions that are coming at you, eventually you start thinking you're seeing a veer and it's not. And we saw that last week in the Titans game so often in the fourth quarter. Like, the Ravens will just run a zone concept late, and the linebackers are like jumping the wrong way, thinking it's going to be something else out of a key that they read. And that's why Greg Roman does a good job mixing it up. But it's going to be an interesting chess match on both sides of the ball. And the Ravens have to be able to convert when they stall out. Inevitably, they need to be able to convert on the 3rd and 7s. Bills, I feel like, are really going to put pressure on Lamar's arm in a cold game. And if Lamar's calm, cool, collected, and able to buy time and get the ball out and throw it confidently, Ravens will put up points. And I just don't know how the Bills are going to play 4 quarters of really stymieing football against a team that runs the ball so well and runs the ball so heavily. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins feel like you're going to be able to do some damage in this one. So it's tough. And the Bills scheme is multiple, and they do a good job moving around pre-snap, post-snap, making quarterbacks have to make post-snap reads. I like that a lot, again, of those safeties. And Trey White is a star, but they just don't, like you said, they don't have the guy in the middle of the football field. And I think it'll show.
32 degrees, cloudy skies with a few snow showers later at night. Low 32 F. Winds WSW at 15 to 25 miles per hour. Chance of snow 30%. Higher wind gusts possible. How much are you expecting conditions to play a factor?
I feel like it's not going to snow and it's going to be windy as shit. I feel like it's going to be 30-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, it's just going to be that awful, like, it was kind of like that actually today out on the golf course for me. It's cast iron gray skies. It was supposed to be like 50, and it just winds up being like a nice 40, high 30s, windy. That's always the fucking worst.
Your nose is running.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Had to just scarf down a glizzy at the turn and keep myself in the game. But the Ravens are not going to be able to do that in this game. This is going to be
They will not be shotgunning glizzies. No.
Yeah. No alcohol either. It was tough out there, and there's going to be none for them. And it does feel like, I guess,
this is a hot toddy kind of game. They could really use some hot toddies on the Ravens sideline.
That's what I was thinking. If they get the W here, they're just going to be slamming hot toddies, and Harbaugh's going to be quoting Jocko. But it feels like kind of prediction time for me because the nose is working a little bit.
Let's do it.
I'm sniffing it out, and it kind of feels like to me a shootout, but not like a high flying passing shootout. I think these teams are going to run the shit out of the ball, and I guess I'm starting. I will. Dramatic pause.
Pause for emphasis.
Yeah. So being like a fan several years ago, before I had even gotten into the blogging thing, I had a policy of never picking against the Ravens in the playoffs. And I think that might have influenced my decision to pick them last week a little bit, because I think the Titans were a pretty good matchup for them, or for the Titans rather. And I could have just as easily seen them winning this game. That is not a factor here. I legitimately believe the Ravens have a chance to win this thing. And I think it's going to come down to, like I said, the turnovers. And I think the Ravens are going to be able to get the better of Josh Allen once more than the Bills are of Lamar. I'm going to go Ravens 34, Bills 30.
I think we see a lot of pressure off of Lamar. And while we can, that's the sports talk take. You could feel it. You could feel when that scramble happened, what it was. And I ultimately, when I have picked what I stuck with in the beginning of the season, I've been right as rain. It feels like I veered off on that Chiefs game. Of course, I didn't see the Patriots one coming. But again, I don't know how without a guy like Star Lotulelei, or they also are without Shaq Lawson. They do have AJ Epinesa. We talked about him. You know how much I love him, but I don't know how they're going to really stick in the trenches against the Ravens once, the second half wears on and the Ravens keep running the ball. I just think that the athleticism of Ngakoue, Bowser, Judon, McPhee, Queen, Fort, all these, Deshaun Elliott, like coming downhill. I just think that Josh Allen can't quite run and create against such a deep defensive front. I think they'll be able to get pressure. I think you can rattle Josh Allen just a little bit. I don't think we see him break down or anything. He's not going to look like he looked like last year. He's going to make some throws. He's going to have some drives, third downs. He's a fucking madman on third down. But in the end, I don't know how the Bills can stuff the Ravens run game without doing some schoolyard bullshit like they did last year. And I don't know how they can be a one-dimensional team against a really healthy, balanced Ravens defense. I'm just going to name the guys, man. Ngakoue, Campbell, Brandon Williams, Matt Judon, freaking Marlon Humphrey. Marcus Peters is questionable, but Jimmy Smith, like, there's so much talent, and it feels like the Ravens defense is clicking right now. I agree with you. I think they can get the better of Josh Allen enough in this game to frustrate it a little bit. And if the Ravens offense can score 24 points-ish, I think that's enough to get it done. I think it's going to be tough for the Bills in the red zone. They do love those tight end leaks and all that crap, but I think the Ravens win. Man, you said it. This feels like a year where the Ravens take a step forward, but not, they don't go from running a mile to running a marathon. I think they'll win this game and lose in the AFC Championship. I'm going to go with my original prediction for this season. So I'm going to say Ravens. It's cold. They want to run the ball. I don't think there's going to be a ton of possessions in this one. I think they want to limit the Bills' possessions. Ravens 26, Bills 21. Bills 21, and I think it's not a 3 touchdowns 21. So I think it's close-ish. I think the Ravens control it for the most part. Josh Allen makes some plays, and the Ravens off defensive front is too deep. They're going to be coming too strong. The Bills' offensive line is going to wear down. Josh Allen's not going to be able to get the angles and extend plays like he normally does. He likes those RPOs over the middle of the field. I think the Ravens are used to those. They play against them in practice. They got shredded by the Chiefs on a lot of that stuff, but that was a long time ago, and the Ravens defense is ready for this task. And ultimately, I think that Ravens defensive front is kind of the MVP of this game again. Calais Campbell is a fucking monster right now. I listened to him on Rich Eisen, and he's being all cordial.
Rich, I wasn't yelling anything crazy, but I had to get the guys fired up, Rich. I had to get the guys fired up.
And I was like, no, dude, you're 7 feet tall, 700 pounds. You're fucking horrifying. And I saw one of the Bills compare him to the Iron Giant, which is an unbelievable comparison. Unbelievable comparison. The Ravens defensive front, I think, Madubuike, I failed to mention, who, holy shit, man, they have a player in Justin Madubuike. I've detailed him on Instagram, on Twitter. He is a beast. He is a fucking beast. The explosiveness, the mobility, the strength, the hand technique for a rookie that was not, heralded to be a first-round guy. He kind of was and then fell off, but holy shit, he's a player. He's a rotational guy. That means he's fresh and crispy and ready to run. I think this Ravens team has some mojo. So it feels like it might be a little bit biased, but in the end, long story short, I'm going with what I picked originally. The Ravens win in the wild card, win in the divisional round, and find themselves in Kansas City trying to go beat those goddamn Chiefs. And I don't think they do it in the end, but I think they beat the Bills.
What do you think about the other games? I feel like the Browns could pull something weird off against the Chiefs, but I am going to pick the Chiefs to win. I'm going to go Packers, and I'm going to go Bucks.
Bucks, I went Bucks as well. I went Packers as well. I don't think the Rams can score enough. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to figure out the rotations that the Rams do in coverage. There's some keys there, stuff that they do with their linebackers. Aaron Rodgers is the most cerebral man in football.
Aaron Donald a little banged up too, I think.
Aaron Donald banged up. That's a great point. Ramsey's going to try to take Devontae Adams. I'm sure that'll be like an even matchup. I think Devontae Adams goes like 5 for 65 and a touchdown, and it's not on Jalen Ramsey, like something like that. And Ramsey effectively kind of stymies him and whatever. But I think the Packers are able to do it in other ways. You want to go with the Bucks just because you want to go with the no one wins 3 in a year. Number one. Number two, I think Tom Brady, they tailored that offense to him finally, and he's really clicking. And I think that they'll be able to stuff that Saints attack a little bit that hasn't been explosive. That's like a 25-point Saints team right now at their best. They're not like a 35 points producing offense. So I agree with you there. I agree with all of those. I think that the Browns are going to give the Chiefs trouble with the Browns offensive line, for sure. That offensive line is humming, but Chiefs defense, people talk shit about it. They play in shootouts. Teams have to score on them. Like, teams push the ball. It's like when you're playing the Warriors a couple years ago. Like, you bring your fucking A game against the Chiefs. Everybody wants to beat them. You're scheming up everything you've got. But I think that Travis Kelce going to absolutely feast on the Browns over the middle of the football field.
Bag shape.
What'd you say?
The Browns defense is in bag shape.
They are. They don't have anyone that can cover Travis Kelce. I'll tell you that right fucking now. Not even close. So I think he's going to be a problem. And I think the Browns do scare him a little bit, but Spagnuolo has that back end so able to produce turnovers and able to really stifle guys in coverage. I think it's a good game. I think the Chiefs win by 1 score. I think I'm going to take the Chiefs to cover, or the Browns to cover maybe. I think they're
like
minus
a line. So yeah, I definitely see that being much closer.
Yeah, we could be wrong. Who knows? But I like that to be a somewhat close game, and the Chiefs pull it out, and they're the class of the NFL. And I think that we get the Ravens with the rematch in KC, and the Ravens have to go there and do the damn thing. And I think that they don't ultimately do that. That was my preseason prediction. I'm sticking to it. I had the Ravens beating the Titans in the first round. That is nothing but dumb luck at all whatsoever. So not trying to give myself credit there, but just want to stick to the script because I feel like it's done well.
But like you said, I think getting that win is a massive weight off of the shoulders of not only one player who was getting all the blame for it, but this franchise who was, staring down the barrel of, like we've said, a tough offseason. So just getting that monkey off the back, and I think it obviously helps them going into this weekend. I think it's going to help them moving forward, really kind of ready to ramp up and start to challenge for a Super Bowl, if not this year, then next, and the one after that, hopefully. So we'll see what happens. We're both on the Ravens this week. I don't think, for Homer perspective,
I'm not overlooking the Bills. The Ravens might lose this game. I'm not overlooking the Bills.
Bills are an awesome team, and
Josh Allen could do the damn thing and whatever. But we got Andrew Sakara here. We'll get into the comments, but he's saying Campbell, Wolf, B. Will, Mataboyke, Ward, Queen, Ford, Harrison, Bowser, Judon, and Ngakoue will destroy Dawkins, Bacher, Morris, Williams, and Feliciano. I agree. There's too much depth, and I don't think the Bills have offensive depth. Like, their tight ends aren't that great. They can hurt you a little bit with just the fact they get leaked out. They get some open looks. Dawson Knox has fucking bricks for hands at all times. And it just feels like the Bills are not deep enough on either side of the football, while the Ravens are very, very deep right now. And if Marcus Peters can't go, that definitely sucks big time for the Ravens. That's a big blow, but it is what it is. They have Jimmy. If he can stay healthy, Anthony Everett's going to have to step in there and play, and that might, even things a little bit more. Maybe tip it in the scale of the Bills a little bit on the back end. But again, I agree with you, Andrew. I think that the Ravens defensive front is too much for this Bills offensive line.
Jumping into these comments then, Devin H. starts us off with "Let's fucking go." Absolutely. Zimmy Rano with a boober bomb. Very sick. Rafael Pereira says, "Go Ravens." He then says Gmail. He doesn't.
Hail. He meant to say hail.
Oh, hail from Brazil. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Kyle Barber says Spenny's beard right now. Your beard's getting a lot of play here. I got to hand it to you. It looks
it looks horrible, but it's good. I'm gonna get a trim before I finally shave it off if and when the Ravens do lose.
Yeah, I'm gonna trim mine. I'm not gonna cut it all the way. Adam Jones says, "Hey, hype for this episode. Thank you, buddy." And then he says, "What's better, a Ravens win or Jake Collinsworth? Tough one. I'm going to go with the Ravens win here, going up to Orchard Park, Bills Mafia. Typically going to be hopping, but hopefully going to see some socially distanced tailgates. Tables better watch out this weekend because it's going to be a rough one for them for sure as we throw it down to the field in Michelle." Prop Joe shouts, says maintaining Josh. Cardinals last year. I don't understand either of those references.
Containing Josh, I think, is what he means. And I think he was talking about the last time that the Ravens won a game without needing Lamar Jackson to take over. But he did win that game with his arm. Like, he had to win. He had to throw to Marquise Brown to not let the Cardinals get the ball with a chance to score at the end of that game.
Gotcha. Jake Folsom Zero says, "Does Marlon struggle with Diggs?" is the question. Yeah, that seems like it's going to be a big matchup.
I feel like no. I don't think he's going to. I think that's a good pound-for-pound matchup for Marlon.
Absolutely. Adam also says both are very – so he means quarterbacks here. Both are very good, but Lamar doesn't have a top 5 wide receiver 1 or even top 20. Lamar is not only the star QB, but he is also the star RB for the team. It would be like us having a top 10 RB and top 10 QB. I agree with some of that stuff. Like, I also like Lamar's so unique, like comparing him to some of these other guys and the situations they're in. I kind of don't love it. And like also like I feel like fans are kind of
Mark Andrews is a fucking lethal weapon, and because they don't have any, he gets taken away, and he's not Diggs. But like, imagine if Josh Allen had Mark Andrews instead of Dawson Knox.
Yeah, it's like And like fans are already kind of convincing themselves like, oh, all they need is like Allen Robinson or just like this exact type of wide receiver. And then all of a sudden everything's going to be amazing next year. I'm not totally like sold on that quite yet. I feel like this is kind of a unique situation. And obviously like adding a player of that.
Talk about that Chiefs game, man. I mean, Lamar still is progressing. He's not done developing. He had a couple drops, yes, but he missed Hollywood twice bad in that game. Bad. Yeah. And those were not, Allen Robinson's not going to catch that ball. He's not even going to separate like that either. So like you gotta hit those elite teams. You can't miss. You cannot miss when you come at the King. Or the
and it would not hurt to add a player like that. But I'm just saying, like, I
just don't love Allen Robinson because I don't love. It's really hard to play better than $20 million at wide receiver. And Stephon Diggs arguably has, but like has Odell Beckham. Like I just don't know. I don't love, like, cornerback is the only position I feel like you get a guy that can cover and he is not going to get beat consistently. And that is worth $20 million. Quarterback, of course.
Like wide receiver. Cornerback is a predictive position, and like obviously there's not a lot of these in the league. Obviously, that's why it's kind of a crapshoot in free agency sometimes. But yeah, wide receiver is tough, man. Like there's plenty of good options. Like you don't have to just talk yourself into Allen Robinson for $20 million a year, which is probably it's going to be around that.
Ravens also just don't do that in free agency, and I hope I'm wrong and they do get a wide receiver one. That would be great, but they don't sign prime $20 million fucking guys. Like Earl Thomas was the biggest free agent grab ever, and he was like, pretty expensive, but not like, not like that. Like
a safety going into his third contract. Like it's not quite the same as some of these other teams that just go absolutely nuts. It's very different.
Like Allen Robinson's going to get a shitload of money.
Yeah, just sign like Sammy Watkins and draft like Kadarius
Curtis Samuel or like some of these ancillary players and just keep taking shots. I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do go get it. They did try to get Hopkins, but we'll get into all that shit after the season.
Yeah, I started watching the receivers with the draft. There's plenty of good ones I've seen so far. I'm like through 5 or 6 of them up to this point. So you
haven't even gotten to Tylan Wallace yet. You haven't gotten to Tony yet.
No, dude, Tony is fucking sick. I love him.
He's one of those guys who's labeled as a gadget receiver, and he is not. He can do that, but he separates and is an elite separator. Like he's like if Jalen Reagor was like way fucking better
and thicker and like an actual like he looks a little Bolden-y out there.
Someone compared him to, oh my God, what was it? If Deebo Samuel and Percy Harvin were combined or something like that. I can't remember.
Debo is a good comp. Yeah, Harvin for sure. Like just the shit he does with his feet too are nuts. We don't have to get like all the way.
Yeah.
I fucking love him. Monty, man, Lamar just needs a top 10 wide receiver, and the Ravens offense will be pretty much unstoppable. I mean, they were pretty much unstoppable last year with like the same crew. So like I'm just not totally sure of that. Adam Jones, I agree. He just needs a guy he can trust no matter what to come down with the catch. Like again,
the trust is a big factor, but like I feel like you really fucking trust Marquise Brown, and he can't throw the ball up to him, but like Marquise Brown separates better than a big guy will. Like he gets so open, you just have to hit him.
Yeah, like the whole Brandon
Andrews is 6'5", 255, 260. Like,
and there's
I think Lamar has to be better. I think that Lamar has to be a little bit better, and having Diggs would help, yes, but I think that Lamar is still about to take another leap next year.
And there is like a trust factor there too, where it's like if you have a 6'5" guy,
absolutely.
On the outside the number.
I think Yak is a bigger issue almost. They never when Hollywood gets Yak, that is what makes this offense go. When they have a guy that can catch the ball, it can be a balanced receiver and go turn a 7-yard gain into a 50-yard gain. That for me is what this offense is missing. And they don't have that. And that is a tangible skill. Being hard to like AJ Brown, being a guy that is really fucking difficult to stop after he catches the football. That I feel like this offense misses so much because then, you get a 9-yard catch and it's 11-yard gain. You get a 15-yard catch and it's a 20-yard gain. Like so rarely is it a 13-yard catch that goes 45 yards. So rarely. That's what I feel like they're missing.
Yeah, exactly. And like I feel like a lot of the good offenses in the league have trended towards that. Like Kansas City, the Saints do that a little bit, and like the Packers to some extent. So yeah, I agree. Monty, man, Colts would have had 2 interceptions had it not been for boneheaded penalties. Exactly. Andrew Sakara, the Bills' interior O-line is not very good. Ravens D-line will give Bills O-line problems for sure. Jonas Evans says, what's good, boys? Marlowe v. Diggs is going to be nice. Flats are open in the Bills D as well, hopefully. Andrew agrees with Jonas on that and says Tomlinson could be used in the Ricard capacity.
If they could sneak Tomlinson out, Like no one gives a shit about Tomlinson right now.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. It feels like I mentioned, Boykin kind of getting lost in the wash a little bit. I feel like Tomlinson is a guy who they really like for like reasons that I haven't really understood other than his blocking. But like, it feels like tight end, you kind of get yourself out there, get open, catch the ball, and try to do something. It's not like overly complicated. Andrew says, yeah, so he lists the names there. He already went through that. Joshua Richter, Moss being out is huge. This is the game that shows why Ravens go for Yannick, hopefully. Legend. This would be the Bills' third straight home game and the Ravens' third straight road game. So I feel that would give them a slight advantage, but I definitely think we can pull this off. Yeah, there's something to that, and also like to the fact that the Ravens have been in the playoffs for the past 6 weeks at this point.
But the Ravens suck at home in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Fantastic on the road.
And it's not even like you can't even say like, oh, well, they were just in a tough division and they had to play these jabroni opponents on the road now. It's like, yeah, the loss to the Titans last year. It's like, well, maybe something to that. Jimmy Dean says bar, and then he follows up with barring a negative turnover ratio. Ravens win by 2 scores. Oh, Maron, I like that. Jonas Evans, Spenny has been strangely confident about Marlowe this week. I don't think that's strange.
I understand because he struggled last week, but I just think watching the way that Diggs runs routes, watching the physicality that Marlon and the recovery that he has, I think he can delay Stephon Diggs enough at the line of scrimmage and force some really tight throws. Stephon Diggs will probably have 7 catches for, like, I want to say it's 7 for 80 and no touchdowns. Like, I think he's able to move the chains for them, but I don't see him getting away from Marlon. Marlon only gets beat by like really tiny guys or really big guys. Like Tyler Lockett is the absolute definition of a finesse wide receiver. Tyler Lockett got the best of him a couple times, and AJ Brown pushed off like multiple times and was able to beat Marlon that way. People want to talk about the touchdown in the end zone. There was a crossing route that only went for like 11 or 12. He threw Marlon off of him, threw him like 2 yards back, and then broke at a stem and attacked the middle of the football field. And Deshaun Elliott came and closed it out, and Marlon tried to punch the ball out. Like, he was having to throw Marlon off of him, and they were letting him, which was, obviously sketchy, but that's what happens to the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah. And in 2 of their 3 losses, Diggs was held under 100 yards. So there you go. Nice little stat boy there for you. But I don't know, like AJ Brown is like a fucking refrigerator. Like he's going to be tough to cover for a guy like Marlon.
It's like a tight end almost.
Yeah. Like it's a tough draw. I feel like Diggs is the guy that he's been kind of able to stick with a little bit. Maybe, pretty good technician, a la Lockett, like you mentioned there. So maybe kind of difficult. But
Diggs and Humphrey remind me of each other in a way. They're both like,
yeah, that's a good comparison.
They're both like so flashy, but also hardworking. Like they're like blue collar and white collar at the same time, like attitude wise. And they like the cameras, but it's never like an issue. Diggs actually did become a little bit of an issue. I forgot about his like cryptic tweets and shit. He was like Diggs is almost like Kyrie Irving of the NFL.
Yeah, he was in a weird situation there with the Vikings. Well, listen, I mean, as much as I love the city of Indianapolis or Minneapolis, it's got to be kind of tough. And playing with Kirk Cousins, it'll get to you. Joshua Richter, Rashad Bateman would be cool in the draft, but if we got a veteran, Galladay would be the guy. Galladay, yeah.
Love Galladay.
Yeah, I was talking about trading for him.
That would be an amazing fit. Both of those would be cool.
Jimmy Dean, a FA number 1 wide receiver, is a waste of money for the Ravens offense. The trust thing is weird. Just throw to the open guy. Yeah, it's not that complicated. Like, you don't need to spend $20 million on it.
I think that it's more that Lamar is just like scared of turning the ball over. Like he absolutely despises throwing interceptions. He hates throwing interceptions more than he likes running 50-yard touchdowns.
Yeah. Alexander Forlenza. Why don't the Ravens use screens, really? Interesting question.
I've been asking that question since last year, Alexander.
You never have. Like literally going back like other coordinators.
Like J.K. Dobbins, throw him some fucking screens.
Yeah, it's especially like some of these.
Greg Roman does not. I think that it is just not Greg Roman's forte. I don't think he's well read on them. I don't think he has installed them well. I don't think he is good at screens. That is a basic comment. He is not a screen guy. He likes to attack downfield and he likes to run.
Well, yeah, when your offense is like so north-south and physical, I can see why. Like, okay, let's take a step back and like set this up. And Lamar, you have to like wait for a second and take.
And you have good perimeter blockers like Miles Boykin and Willie Snead are the best 2 wide receivers you could have to run receiver screens with in terms of being blockers.
Good pulling guards too. Like it Feels like those guys.
Get Bradley Bozeman, Miles Boykin, and Willie Snead out ahead of J.K. Dobbins or Marquise Brown or Devin Duvernay, and that is a fucking matchup I like.
Duvernay had actually a nice screen catch in week 1.
Ryan Stanley is a really good screen blocker too, and I don't know if the Ravens really have anyone right now other than Bozeman who is.
Okay, so there you have it. Kind of half answer, but we don't really know the answer either.
Do not know the answer, but Greg Roman hates them. That's why.
Last one from Jimmy Dean. Our DBs were just as physical with the Titans wide receivers in that game. Hopefully the refs call a similar game tomorrow night. Yeah, the refs, like they kind of botched the call at the end there, but overall, I think they did a decent job in that game with the Titans.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right.
Yeah, listen, nobody bitches about the refs more than me. So
you hate referees.
If it were,
who is the ref? We haven't even looked. I don't even know. Let me see. Crew.
Ravens, Bills, Crew.
Who is it? CBS matchup. Ravens, Bills, info. Where is the crew? Crew. I love crews. So do you. Don't know. Hope it's Brad Allen. That's the Ravens boy.
Okay. What about Chad?
I hope. No. I can't find the crew.
Neither can I. What's a broadcast channel?
NBC, I think.
I'll tell you what, Al. Let me see if I can find it. Ravens, Bills, podcast. Let's see. Yep, NBC. I'll tell you what.
It is Carl Sheffers.
Carl. Okay, I know that name. I don't really.
Oh, I do not. I'm not familiar with Carl.
Okay. Carl. Okay.
Carl. He is been in the NFL for 21 years. He is a sales manager from California Irvine University.
Yeah, he's not a referee.
And that's all I got on that.
Take note of that. He's not actually a full-time referee. He's a fucking sales guy.
It has all of their occupations, which is crazy. I found a website called Football Zebras
and stuff, and they're just like boosters, so they just do that on the side. It's so fucking annoying.
I thought they were supposed to be full-time now. I thought it was full-time and unionized now.
No, they were for like a year, and now it's gone again for reasons that escape me.
It is?
Yeah, it was.
Sean Hockley, financial advisor. How sick is that?
He's
Ed Hockley's son.
Yeah, he's jacked to the T's, just like his dad. It's a scene, man. Like they were for a year, and I don't know if they were on the right track or not, or like what happened. But
I think the refs fucked the Ravens in this one. I don't know who Carl Sheffers is, but I think that the refs fucked the Ravens. Bold prediction. I don't like the look on Carl Sheffers' face.
Your name's Carl. There's some shady things going on. I don't know.
I really wish that they had Jerome Booger.
Personal foul, offense number 45, 10-yard penalty, replay, second down.
I think his crew gets it right. I think that Boger's crew gets it right.
Listen, I have tremendous memories of Jerome Boger in Super Bowl 47.
100%. 100%.
Did you guys hear the Lamar interview with Jack Collinsworth? If I don't look at the guy's face and just close my eyes, it's like I'm straight up just listening to Chris Collinsworth.
He pisses me off because he tries to be so much like his dad.
I like Jack. Actually, pull back the curtain. I traded DMs with him a little bit right when I started the show, and like I thought I was going to get him on for a second. He wound up having some scheduling issues. I don't know, but like he was nice about it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm a big Jack Collinsworth guy.
We'll get him on.
He's going to be on with we should try. He's going to be on with Bobby Trossett from WBAL this week, and with his dad.
Bobby Trossett is a good dude.
He is. Okay, I guess that is a show, pal.
We're taking a Ravens win, folks. We're taking a Ravens win, and then one of the most devastating losses in Baltimore Ravens history will occur next week in Kansas City.
Okay,
that's my gut. That's my gut.
That is a prediction, and that is a show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we hope you enjoy this on this Saturday release that we're doing here for the RSS feeds. Hope you enjoy that. Gives you something to listen to over the course of the day because you don't want to listen to, Florio and whoever else on the NBC. I guess they're doing football night in America.
Michael Scott. God, no. Please, no.
No. John Harbaugh actually hopped onto that one year. He was pretty good when Dan Patrick was doing it. But yeah, it's interesting. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you guys have yourselves a good weekend and enjoy the game. We will be streaming again tomorrow night right after it, I would assume. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. If this is your first time listening, go ahead and subscribe. Leave us a nice 5-star rating and a review wherever you are getting your pods. And follow us on social media. You can follow the show on Twitter at Podcast Beatdown. I am at Jake Luke. That is Louque. Spencer is at Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4 in the middle. Check out our main page at Be More Beatdown on Twitter, and check us out on Instagram at Baltimore_Beatdown. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Have yourselves a good night, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.
See ya.
Peace out.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.